Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Golfing Greenkeeper podcast. My name is Steve Smith, and I'm your host, and I'm going to break it up a little bit. We've had a wild ride, haven't we? It's been incredible. We've been all over the countryside, New South Wales, Northern Territory for the first time, Queensland, ACT into the nation's capital. Then we've had a bit of a break where we do some history stuff with Aussie Golf History and Kalara Golf Club. And Keeper of the Greens has been travelling so far and wide. And we've just had, where I interviewed Richard Forsyth down there at Royal Melbourne. Fantastic Richard Forsyth that he is, and had a wonderful interview there. And you guys have lapped it up. You've really been enjoying that one. So thank you very much for listening. I'm going to break all that up and we're going to go into the news segment and bring that one back to life. It's been a while since we've had Walking the Fairways, ladies and gentlemen. So that's what this episode is, Walking the Fairways, where we're going to look out into the golfing landscape and see what's going on around the country. But this one's a little bit more site-specific. You may have been, if you're on my social media, if you're following me on socials, you've probably seen that I just did a day trip to Hobart in Tasmania. So this Walking the Fairways is going to focus on that trip. We're going down into the island state that is Tasmania, into the wonderful, soon-to-be a mega golf destination of Hobart, the capital city of Tassie. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, it's Walking the Fairways. This is episode number 96. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as mentioned, Walking the Fairways is the news segment of the Golfing Greenkeeper podcast, where I try and keep you up to date with what's happening around the country. Now, as mentioned, this one's very site-specific. We're going to Hobart, the capital city of the state of Tasmania, the island state, the Apple Isle, as it were, down in the southernmost parts of Australia. Now, before I do so, I've got to give you a quick update. Thanks to everyone, all of you out there listening, all of you fans and the audience and the listeners, new, old, many, varied, it doesn't matter what your walk of life is. I'm so humbled and I'm so grateful that you take the time out to listen to these episodes that I put out there with all the different guests that I have and all the different things that we've got to talk about. And because of all you people listening and being such fans of the podcast, we have skyrocketed into the top 5. Yes, the Golfing Greenkeeper podcast just landed in the number 5 position at the weekend on the Apple charts for golf podcasts in Australia. Now that is epic. I cannot begin to tell you, because we don't talk about the golf swing. We don't talk about the mechanics of the sport, the equipment in the game. We don't talk about that. I want to be able to talk to you about the landscapes, what it takes to create, to maintain, look after, care for, and deliver to you guys that you go out there and play and enjoy. It's the landscape and that space and that wonderful location the different locations and the many and varied locations and environments that we play in and we enjoy across Australia. That's the essence of this podcast. So I do urge you to keep sharing it around. And because of that, that's why we've gone so high. And it's remarkable, to be honest, that this podcast has managed to launch so high into number 5, into the top 5 of Australian golf podcasts. And I never, ever dreamt that would have occurred. So thank you. It's my turn to say thank you to all of you listeners out there. And I get wonderful messages and very kind messages of support and all you people listening out there, which is fantastic. And I love to keep hearing it. I need a few more reviews, so let's throw that one out there. But I really wanted to say thank you and take the time to say thank you properly, because landing at number 5 is such an epic deal, and I never thought that would have ever happened. So here we are, number 5 in Australia. It's gone that high, and let's see if we can make it to number 1. There's a few big names up there, like No Laying Up and the Rick Shields and all that. So look, it's epic should we ever get that high. But yeah, thank you so much is what I wanted to take the time to say and give you a quick update. Also, just quickly, I'm looking for a new partner for Walking the Fairways segment of the Golfing Greenkeeper podcast, which is the one that we're talking about here. That's what this is, the news segment. So if you've got a business in the golf industry, in the greenkeeping industry, in the architecture golf industry, and you're looking to get your messages directly into your target audience, that's what the podcast is all about. That's what the Golfing Greenkeeper podcast is all about. And the Walking the Fairways segment is the news segment. So you can have a bit of a think of how you want to get your message out there and how we might be able to work together and help you deliver it into the people who are listening, which is all you lovely people out there in the audience, many and varied, everyone in between, right across Australia and indeed the world. We go into 97 countries I think is the last count that I looked at. So I'd love to break 100, but that's epic. 97 countries, but the major focus is obviously in Australia. So thank you again to everyone listening. Now, let's get stuck into my day trip that was Hobart, Tasmania. And I'm going to run it in chronological order because that's how my head seems to work the best. And I don't like to jump around too much, but we'll just stick with it. So my day started with landing into Hobart. And thank you so much to Matt Goggin and Anthony Toogood, who's doing the construction, leading the construction and growing down there at 7 Mile Beach. That was my first port of call. And I've had Matt Goggin on the podcast in the past to talk about 7 Mile Beach and what it's all about. He was on the boardroom segment of the podcast. That was a few episodes ago in number 84. So if you want to go back and have a brief look at that, find that one and you'll really get an insight as to where 7 Mile Beach came from, what's behind it, how it's being driven, and what their aspirations are, obviously. And it is huge. So go back to that and listen to my interview with Matt Goggin. And I have to say thanks again to Matt Goggin because he got me the connection to be able to go down there, get on site and see Anthony Toogood and get in there and really have a look at what's going on down there at 7 Mile Beach in Hobart. Now, 7 Mile, just to give you an idea, is just located to the east of Hobart Airport. Now, it's a capital city, albeit a smaller one. It's not as big, anywhere near as big as Sydney or Melbourne, but it's the capital city of Tasmania. So it's an international airport. So you can fly in from anywhere in Australia and indeed the world. You can fly into Hobart. And that's where 7 Mile Beach is. It is so close to the airport that the flight path goes just around the sides of the golf course, just over the water bodies that are around the golf course. And I'll explain that in a little bit more detail soon. But as you're flying in, you get the glimpse of that peninsula, if you like, of that 7 Mile Beach on the south side of the spit of sand where the golf course is located, with 5 Mile Beach on the northern side of it, all the pine forests and all the trees that cover that. It's a lot of forestry area, is my understanding, with a bit of an old sand mine and things in between. It is purely sand-based, this whole neck that shoots out from to the east of where the airport is. And indeed, all that airport's part of the region of Hobart. It's all sand anyway. It's quite remarkable. So you've got this wonderful landscape of sand. So when you're flying in, you get to see 7 Mile Beach from the air, which is a great teaser when you get down there, if that's what you're going to be going there for. So when this golf course opens, it's not like you get a reveal from when you get to the driveway. One of the things that I used to like about when I was at Katoomba is that you get to go. I wanted to try and present you a golf course from the moment you got to the driveway. Even before that, from the moment you could see it driving up to the entrance of our club at Katoomba, was to be able to present something to you that you just sit there and go, wow, there's something as we're going in. We've already got a taste of what we're about to see, and then as you go in, it would reveal itself over and over. And that was the idea. So for me, any golf course, you want to try and give a taste, a glimpse, a feel of what is about to happen when you get in there and when you get to that golf course. And 7 Mile Beach is going to give you a glimpse of that from the plane. Now, there aren't too many golf courses that are going to do that anywhere in the world, and there are some. There's some unique ones around, and you get glimpses of New South Wales when you're flying into Sydney, which is absolutely fantastic. When you're flying onto Hamilton Island, you can sometimes, depending on the flight path, get a glimpse of Hamilton Island Golf Course, which is on its own island, being Dent Island, and that's unique and quite remarkable. And there's plenty, I'm sure, around the world, but they're not all of them, right? It's quite unique. So 7 Mile Beach Golf Course is one of those where you'll get a glimpse. And trust me, you're leaning over seats to see out that window if you haven't got a window seat. It's quite spectacular. So you're going to get a taste as you fly in, right? And then when you make your way to the golf course, it's very unassuming. It's, like I said, it's in amongst pine forest. We know that the location of the golf course, you look at any of the social media posts that are on the 7 Mile Beach Instagram accounts, and I will tell you to go and have a look at them. Go and sign up to them. You want to be ready. So you're going to see that's the location. But when you're in it on ground level, when you're down in those pine forests driving out that way to see where you're going to arrive at 7 Mile Beach Golf Course, it's even more out of this world because you don't get to see really much of anything at all. You got the road. It's all sand, like I said. And when I was driving out there, There was a Woolworths delivery truck, like the home delivery, little 4-tonner delivery truck, right? He'd just, for whatever reason, taken the wrong road. I don't know where he was going. And he had, for some weird reason, gone off the side of the road. At the moment, it's an access road, right? So it's not a formed driveway as such yet. It's an access road. And this guy had driven off the sides. And it's sand. And he went straight down to the axle. Bogged. I was worried that if I went off the side of the road, that it's purely sand. I cannot begin to tell you how interesting it is and how unreal the location is of sand. And when you get to the golf course, there's a reveal when you get to the golf course. Now I'm not going to tell you that stuff. And if you come into this podcast thinking that I'm going to give you things that haven't been shown to you yet, I can't do that. Because that's part of the mystique of 7 Mile Beach. And you'll probably, even after it opens, you're going to see lots of photos. I'm sure you're going to see lots of videos of people who have been. But you will get to experience it only when you go there yourself. And it will probably take a lot of time before there's so much information out there online that you'll get to see a lot of the parts of it that you won't see unless you're there. So for the time being, I can't reveal some of those things to you. But needless to say, picture driving down a pine forest access road, a small road through a pine forest, purely on sand, and then you get to a golf course. And it's all sand dunes. There's a golf course made out of and in amongst and routed throughout and within a wonderful sand dune landscape. And it is quite remarkable. It's that reveal from the pine forest to get to the sand dunes, to get to the golf course that's going to be amazing. And there's lots of the infrastructure that hasn't been built yet. So obviously they're still doing the clubhouse and things like that haven't started yet. So those things are coming. But the golf course itself, which is being made, and I'm not sure of the opening date, so I can't tell you that either because I have no idea. But the golf course that's coming and coming very, very quickly is something that very few parts of Australia, if not the world, will hold such a wonderful location for golf. It is unfathomable, the dunescape that the golf course is routed in, the size of the area for the 18 holes. So if you have a look at my socials, I'm going to show you a bit of a map of where I walked around. I was kind enough, Anthony Toogood gave me a tour of the golf course in the time that he had available, and then I was able to go for a bit of a wander and have a look myself in some more detail about the location. But the size of the site for 18 holes, these holes don't go back and forth up against each other, which is really refreshing. I wasn't sure how constrained the site was. I had no idea. We've seen aerial photography, and sometimes you get a bit of a parallax error of angle and you're not really sure how close things are. You lose depth of field in photography, so you don't really know how close So there's holes that are close together and there's holes that are far apart. It's really well spaced out is what I can tell you. I love the routing. I think it's a really well done and a very clever routing. And from the moment you begin at the golf course, from the very first hole, is where it's something that's so good. It starts off so well. This golf course begins so well, and it's not something I think anyone would expect, having seen what we've seen already revealed from the people behind the project, from Matt Goggin and so on, Clayton DeVries Pont, some of the photography that's coming out of and working on site and that sort of stuff. So you're going to get this really amazing and fascinating start when you get to 7 Mile. And it's not something that you're expecting, but it's the most wonderful way that I think they could begin the round at 7 Mile. It's quite incredible. So that all happens from the moment you're going to arrive. So you want to keep all this stuff in mind when you're going to go there, and you will go there and play golf. I guarantee if you're a golf fan, you're a bit of a traveller, and even if you're not, you're thinking about where do I want to start, this is somewhere that you're really going to want to consider. It's easy to get to, right? It's easy to fly into Hobart. There's plenty of flights available. It's easy to get there. It's only 5 kilometres or something ridiculously close as the crow flies to 7 Mile Beach golf course. So that's how close it is to Hobart Airport. It's down the road, essentially. It takes no time at all to get there. I think it's 15 minutes because you've got to do out of the airport. You've got to get out of the airport and do a bit of a loop around on the roads to get around the airport to get down to where it is. So it's very, very close. Even though it's so close to the airport, the unique thing is you can't really hear a great deal of the planes. And that's a wonderful thing about its location. So even though it's so close and it's so convenient, it doesn't feel like you're in Sydney where you're underneath the airport with planes flying around all the time. So they're off in the distance, the way the flight paths work around Hobart Airport, that you can see the golf course, but the planes don't go over it. And the way that it's positioned from the runway in the direction of the runway means you don't really hear a lot of the noise. So it's actually really peaceful, yet so conveniently close to the airport. There are so many pluses about its location. It being so close, but it still feels like you're so far away. It's fantastic. So you can fly into it from anywhere in the world. You can get there in 15 minutes from the airport, right? These are big key things that I think if you're ever going to build a golf course, if you're not going to do it completely secluded away from everything else and make that work, to have it so close to an easy access point is mind-boggling. And the fact that such amazing land is so close to an international airport is sensational. The fact that this project, all of these things and this foresight from Matt Goggin and the people that he's got involved have equaled something very, very special indeed. So you can get there. You get glimpses from the plane as you're flying in. It takes you no time at all to get there from the airport by car. You get a very unassuming drive-in when you're going to the property. All these things add to the mystique. They give you teasers and tastes, and you're going to get that all the way along until you get there. And then your head's going to be blown apart when you arrive and as you work your way through the golf course, because it is unreal, the landscape. And it's wonderful. So you've got marram grass, which lots of people may know if you've gone down and played Barnbugle Dunes or the Lost Farm, for example, down there at Barnbugle. Similar kind of concepts of grass that's out there. That's a stability grass that's used often on sand dunes quite regularly. It's used to stabilise the dunes and stop them from blowing away and moving too far and that sort of stuff. So it's not a barren sandscape that's going to blow across everything. So as this marram grass matures and self-propagates and grows throughout, it's going to stabilise the sand a lot better. It's not everywhere like Barnbugle, but it's there and it's part of that area away from the grass turf surfaces. The sand that the site is made of is something that is different to Barnbugle. So I want to use Barnbugle as a reference because it's Tasmanian golf. And there's not a lot of other golf courses that, and I'll talk about other reference points of sand-based golf courses, but it's a famous Tasmanian location. So lots of people will have probably played Barnbugle who are going to probably travel first to get to 7 Mile Beach, and they'll use that as a reference point regardless. So I'm going to try and do that fairly or unfairly. I'm going to do that for some certain reasons, one of them being the marram grass, which I've mentioned. It's a wonderful sand dune landscape, so it's easy to use Barnbugle again as a reference, but from a very, very different region of Tasmania. The sand dunes are very different to Barnbugle, so don't go there expecting anything like what you've seen at Barnbugle. I think it's very different, and for that I think everyone should be commended as well, because there's no reason to want to feel like somewhere else. So it's very different. The way that the golf course has water views from almost everywhere on the golf course is also quite unique for a sand dune scape. And that will be revealed when you get there as to why it's quite remarkable. The site and the way that the sand dunes have formed is really interesting. But the sand itself is quite fine. The first thing I noticed, and I spoke to Anthony about, was the sand itself. So we were talking about those differences between 7 Mile Beach and Barnbugle, and that's why I wanted to raise it up, because the sand is a lot finer than Barnbugle. Barnbugle, if you look at it, if you've got a bit of an idea of what you're looking at, the more golf you've played, that sort of stuff, you can start to see the differences in the bunker sands. And for this project, it's built on sand. So we can see the differences in the sand. The first thing I noticed is it's much finer. It looks smaller, physically smaller. And if you can see that with the naked eye, then it shows you that it is significantly a different size. So then there's different properties that brings too. So the golf course, I think, may play a little different to Barnbugle than potentially other sand dune golf courses that you might have played around. The bunkers will certainly play different. I think there's a little bit more, I say adhesion loosely, but the ability of the sand grains to stabilise a little bit more than Barnbugle. I noticed because of the coarseness and maybe some of the shape of Barnbugle, and Anthony and I were talking about that on site, is that if you've noticed you play Barnbugle, a lot of the sand tends to collapse around the bunker faces. It's quite soft if you've got to walk into areas, collapses under your feet a great deal. I think what you'll probably notice at 7 Mile Beach, and this is my own personal opinion, is that the sand is not as loose, if that makes sense. So it's a little bit more firmer because it's finer in some of the shapes of the grains of sand. And this sounds all very, very technical, but it's really what's going to give the product of 7 Mile Beach its own distinct characteristics and something very, very unique to Australian golf. So this is why I say it's going to stand out on many more ways than I think it does just on face value. There's a lot of differences in the detail of 7 Mile Beach, and that's my own personal viewpoint. I haven't spoken to Matt. I haven't spoken to really anyone else about it, not least of all Mike Clayton and Mike DeVries, the architects behind the design. That's what I've noticed and what I saw down there on site. So that was really interesting about the different sand that was there relative to other places that I've seen. The views, water views from so many parts, and it's not always the only thing. The great thing about any golf course is when you get a reveal like New South Wales in Sydney, New South Wales Golf Club, you get some views of the water, of the ocean and the Pacific Ocean, that sort of stuff. But the way that 7 Mile Beach is built, the way that the lay of the land is quite remarkable. And there's views everywhere, and it's magnificent. It really is magnificent. So you're going to, look, you will, and I don't mean this in a derogatory way, but you will be a tourist out there with a camera taking photos on your way around. It's going to happen. It's going to happen like some of the best golf courses in Australia. There's no two ways about it. I've talked about the size. From east to west, it's a long way. From north to south, it's nowhere near as far. So it's like a rectangular, roughly rectangular shaped golf course, if you like, although it bends slightly around the curve of the beach. It's long. It's long. There's some really good long golf holes there. There's some really good short, clever par threes there. I really liked the routing. I liked the holes. Like I said, there's some that are close together, some that are far apart. It feels like in some holes you're out there on your own in a way. In other parts, you'll kind of, you'll know you can get glimpses of most likely other golfers around on some of the nearby holes. But for the most part, it's a really wonderful site, expansive site. It's not cramped. It doesn't feel tight. Even with the holes that are closer together, it doesn't feel tight, which is really, really nice about the golf course as well. The fescue grasses that are going to adorn the turf surfaces you're going to play on. So it's a blend of fescues. Again, similar to Barnbugle, similar to what we see on some of the Tasmanian golf courses, is a blend of fescues, certainly cool season mixes, but there's no bent grass here. It's all fescue. And I think that's going to deliver. It's going to deliver a quality product that we know and love from Barnbugle here in Australia, and certainly from the British Isles into Scotland. So if you're used to those types of turf surfaces, you're going to find a really sweet way to take shots, and the way that the golf club's going to interact very nicely with minimal thatch and the interaction with the surface of the ground. It's not going to get caught up and bounce out too hard because it's too thatchy and too matty from a couch surface, for example. It's on sand, so it's going to interact well with the club, but it's going to be firm. I've got no doubts it's going to be reasonably firm. Hobart in generally is a dry, reasonably dry, call it a reasonably dry area. They don't get much more than 500 to 600 millimetres of rain a year. Now, in some parts of Sydney, some parts of the east coast of Australia, you'll get that in a couple of weeks. That's what they get annually. So there's going to be an air of probably firmness around the golf course, more so than anything else that if you come from other parts of Australia that you may not be aware of. So they're the sorts of thing, but the fescue is going to give that really nice interaction with the club and the turf surface as you're playing your shots, particularly wedges, that type of thing. And I think it's really that's a really nice part of it. I've already talked about the marram grass, which is on the outsides of the holes. The site itself is an interesting one when it comes to the wind. So I was down there, and Anthony Tuga was telling me that the wind that I had, which was coming out of, I think it was the northwest-ish, was a little bit unusual, I think, from what he was talking about. But he said that at a certain time of the day, around the early afternoon, the wind will sort of really get a little bit flustered and a little bit all over the place as it tends to move from one of the sort of the regular morning pattern to the regular afternoon pattern. So it's a little bit like the East Coast and the eastern suburbs of Sydney or the Fremantle Doctor in Perth. You know that there's going to be a general and afternoon wind that comes from a particular direction of the majority of the time. And so 7 Mile Beach has something along those lines, and forgive me for not knowing the exact direction, but that's what's going to... The wind is going to really be an interesting factor at this golf course. It's not overly exposed to the Southern Ocean, but it's not out on a point like Cape Wickham at King Island, but it's certainly going to have its level of exposure to different winds that are around in that region, because there's a lot of water expanse around both north and south sides of that area of 7 Mile Beach. So, it's certainly open. It's not very sheltered at all. And I think that's going to add to the golf course. There's plenty of width on some of the fairways. There's unique things built into some of the fairways as you're playing the golf holes. I'm just trying to think offhand some of the stuff that I can recall, but I just love some of the ebbs and flows of the fairways, some of the parts that are built into the green surrounds that are going to kick the ball away or bring the ball on towards the green, depending on how you play it, depending on the wind that you're going to be able to take on particular shots. There's so much that's going to be available to you as a golfer that probably any time you go and play there will be very different to the last. And I think that's going to add a great element to the golf course. The one thing that I really liked, and I'm going to do the comparison to Barnbugle, again, for better or worse, but one of the things I liked about Barnbugle is I was more of a fan of Barnbugle Dunes than the Lost Farm. I found the Lost Farm a little bit more easier to work your way around the golf course, a little bit more open space on the fairways, broader fairways, bigger expanses, larger, whether I say larger greens is right or wrong off memory, it was a number of years ago now. But I found that there was a lot more movement in Barnbugle Dunes than there was in Lost Farm on the fairway shapes and the way that the holes were routed. That said, 7 Mile's kind of an in-between of the two, if you like. It's got plenty of movement on some of the fairways, and others it's got less so, and I think it adds to the elements of how you're going to go around and experience the golf course. I want to be able to help you understand what's coming, and it's really amazing. I don't know how else to say it, but I didn't stop. I had a couple of hours there, a fair bit of time with Anthony talking about the details of the golf course and the landscape and what the project's been like to get thus far and all those sorts of things. But also then to go around on my own and have a bit of a look at some of the holes and the landscape in more detail. It is just fantastic. And it is going to hit right at the top of the tree, and it's going to stay there in Australian golf. And I've got no doubts about saying that. And it's going to be a destination for all. It's been done so well, and it's been executed so well. And I've got no doubts that it will be opened up and fostered in the region so well. And I think the locals are going to want to be part of it. Hobart will be a golf destination that it didn't know it was going to be on the back of 7 Mile. And there's one that I'll add to this in a minute as well. So there's a lot there. There's a lot coming. There's so many more reasons to sign up to their social media pages and social media channels and stay with their updates and follow Matt Goggin and follow Clayton DeVries Pine as they start to show more of it as things improve and things get closer to opening date whenever that comes. And then get ready for when you want to book your trip down there or go and play that golf course, because it's something you're really going to want to do. It doesn't matter where you're coming from in Australia. So I can't wait to get back down there. I don't know when I'll get the opportunity to do it again after it opens. Who knows? But it's somewhere that is on my list to get back to in a real hurry. And if I've got to day trip it again to play golf, have a guess what? I'm doing it because it's worth it. I'm really excited by it, and I haven't seen it finished. I'm really excited by it because I've been following it for a number of years now, and it's ticking every box and it's becoming more interesting every moment. So that's a little bit of 7 Mile Beach, and you need to stay interested and you need to stay with it. It's coming, and it's going to hit home really, really well. So congratulations to everyone involved, including Matt Goggin, because his vision and his dedication to making this project from the beginning and making it work, getting the right people involved. I can't stress it enough. These things take a lot of time. They take a lot of energy. They take a lot of effort, usually a lot of money. And Matt's gone in. He's all in. And the people that he's got involved, everyone who's touched it are all in. And I can see why. That's how good it is. So I don't think I can talk it up enough. There you go, being honest. I thought I was ready for it and I was still blown away. So that's 7 Mile Beach, ladies and gentlemen. We move on. My next stop after an amazing morning at 7 Mile Beach was Royal Hobart Golf Club. And I've got to thank Sean Bowden, Superintendent Sean Bowden at Royal Hobart Golf Club, for showing me around the golf course. Never seen it before, obviously never been. I've never been to Hobart for golf. So it was really interesting to see a golf course that held the Australian Open in 1971, if I'm not mistaken. Jack Nicklaus, the Golden Bear, had played it. There's a bit of memorabilia on the wall of the clubhouse in there of Jack Nicklaus taking a shot between two gum tree trunks up the right-hand side of the ninth, I think it was from memory, that Sean was showing me. And he stiffed it to the flag. That guy's an unbelievable golfer in the world of golf, in golf history. The Golden Bear was incredible. And he graced the fairways of Royal Hobart Golf Club in 1971 for the Australian Open. So they've got one Open under their belt. And it's a great golf course. And I'd probably say a great little golf course loosely. I don't mean that again in a derogatory way, but it's a great little golf course. It's got some really nice golf holes about it. The land is reasonably flat, reasonably level, but there's lots of little undulations, 1 metre, 2 metres differences thereabouts in the fairways as you work your way around. There's lots of little ripples, if you like, on the fairways, which adds a little bit of texture, for want of a better word. It adds a little bit to the way that you're not just walking down a flat fairway on a reasonably level golf course. So there's a bit of interest there as you're playing the golf course. So probably off the top of my head, having seen it and talked about it with Sean, I think I'd rather see them swap the 9s around. But I think having the 9th green finish in front of the clubhouse, to me, would be better as 18. It looks like on face value that some of the tougher holes are probably on the front 9 as it stands today. So maybe that would be a little bit of a better finish to have. That's a personal view. They've done some work in recent years, a few years ago, to the 7th hole. And I wanted to point that out particularly because I think what they've achieved, it used to be a sort of a shortish mid-length par 4 dogleg right in a sort of a mirror of the previous hole. But what they've got now, Richard Chamberlain was the golf course architect behind this work, and they've got now is a straight short par 4. It's under 300 metres, and it is an absolute belter of a short par 4. Well positioned. There's very long out of bounds past the green, so you'd have to overclub it by maybe 3 clubs, two to 3 clubs to get it out of bounds. It's a bit wild. So it doesn't really come into play as such, but it's there because the pine forest is behind it. It's on sand. It's a beautiful landscape, the whole golf course. But what I loved about the 7th was this short par 4. It's asking a number of questions. How far do you want to hit it? Do you want to try and roll it up through the bunker gate on the right-hand side of the green and roll it around to see if you can stay on the surface? Do you want to try and maybe give yourself a nice wedge length into the green? So do you want to hit something about 200 metres or even less and give yourself 100 metres into the green? There's a bunker, a centerline bunker type view for one that's a little bit short of the green. There's a bunker up to the right-hand side. Nice undulations around the green. The green's raised up from the surrounding surfaces. Fescue on the new parts of the fairway leading up to a pure distinction green, which my understanding is that pure distinction used on that green is probably, I believe that to be the most southern golf course in Australia with pure distinction. So it's interesting to see how that performs there in terms of how it works and how it grows so well and delivers a surface that we know is so good and so pure. Victoria Golf Club in Melbourne, Peninsula Kingswood in Melbourne, Kalara in Sydney. We know Royal Sydney's doing pure distinction as well. And of course, don't forget Royal Canberra. So lots of cool parts of the country have already got it. I can understand why Royal Hobart would have gone with that as well. Interesting to see how it performs as over time goes, but no doubt a great surface to deal with. A great short par 4. There's a lot of reasons why I think that's a fantastic golf hole. And if that's a measure of where the club might go in the future because they've done that redesign work there, I'd love to see them continue with that because I think it's brought a great element to that particular hole, but also that style of work, the bunkers, the style of them that are put into there, I think that adds a new fresh element to everything. And I think that style of design, Richard Chamberlain does some fantastic work around the country. And I think if Royal Hobart were going to go down that path with Richard, I think that they would be a well served to do so. And I think it would really raise the bar for the golf course. And there's nothing wrong with the golf course that's there now. But I think it would be fantastic if they went down the path of a redesign in that particular fashion with Richard, for example. So, and I believe that green was built by Darby Mueller and Ryan van der Veen is my mail. So hats off to those guys as well for a fantastic execution of the design and the construction there because it's a ripper hole. Trees around the golf course. Look, some of the old photos, I noticed that there's a lot less trees. As happens with golf courses over time, lots of trees are either introduced or continue to let grow out of control a little bit. And it's not they're out of control at Royal Hobart. They could certainly do with less. Let me put it that way. And I think for a golf course of a stature of Royal Hobart, I'd like to see them do more. That's just a personal view. I know they've done some work in the past, and I'd like to see them probably really work through some of the areas that could probably do without trees now, if they are given the ability to do so. I think that's probably something that's holding them back a little bit in a personal viewpoint. But overall, great golf course and great to go and visit somewhere that's held another Australian Open, which I didn't even know about. So if you do get the opportunity, it's worth hitting and ticking that one off your bucket list at Royal Hobart. I think it was a very welcoming club to go into. Sean was very gracious in showing me around, the superintendent, Sean Bowden. So thanks to Sean and to the club, I really got to see another Royal golf course and certainly something that I haven't been to before. And I think they've got a fantastic little golf course there. Like I say, I don't mean that in a derogatory way, but it's certainly, having seen Royal Melbourne recently and Royal Canberra, I think anything's small. So I don't mean that in a derogatory way to you guys down there at Royal Hobart, but you've got a fantastic golf course there, and I think you should be proud of it. I look forward to seeing you improve the golf course as time goes on in making the right decisions that you will, no doubt. I also want to mention that Sean Bowden, superintendent, is actually moving on from Royal Hobart now. He's been there for a number of years, done some great work, lifting the profile, improving the quality of the golf course in the time that he's been there. But he's now moving on. He's heading up to Queensland to take on another role, and stay tuned for where. I'll be able to let you know exactly where that lands. But at this point in time, Superintendent Sean Bowden is moving on from Royal Hobart soon and taking on a role in Queensland. Now, going to Lanherne Golf Club. Now, it's a 9-hole golf course that's nearby. All these courses are nearby the airport, so this is why Hobart's going to be a wonderful golf destination. You add 5 Mile Beach to the mix. So there's so many reasons to want to go down there in the coming years. Lanherne, a fantastic golf course. And a big shout out and a thank you to Tom North, superintendent of Lanherne. Now, Tom is a young fella, and I say young fella because he's younger than me, and a lot of people call me young because they're older than me. So I can say it. I can say he's young fella. Tom is very switched on. There it is. Tom is a sensational bloke, a very smart individual, a very, very passionate superintendent, and he is very good at what he does. He took some time to show me around Lanherne, and from the moment I got there, I could see that it was bloody awesome, right? It's a special part of the world. Nearby to Royal Hobart, like I said, all sand. But in a slightly different way, a little bit different shape of the ground to Royal Hobart. It kind of feels a little bit like a secluded sandbelt style course. That's how it felt, more so than Royal Hobart did. And don't forget, this is a 9-hole golf course. From the moment I arrived, I was really intrigued with some of the movements of the ground away from the fairways. There was a little bit more of a sand duney feel than Royal Hobart. And the greens, were pure. I mean, Tom's there. He's been there on his own for a number of years, and just recently now he's got a young apprentice working with him. So there's 2 full-time staff and a group of fantastically dedicated volunteers that help out as well. But it is just a hint of the Melbourne sandbelt. And the sand that it's on gives you a little bit of that feel as well. It's a little bit darker than 7 Mile. It's not as beachy sand. It's got bit more bite to it. And down the bottom end of the golf course, when you get down to the 4th, there's a bit of a water carry over one of their little water bodies that they've got. Swampy area off to the side of the tee. The golf course routes its way around through these little sand dune type regions. Lots of the native vegetation and bits that have been brought in. It's just a... And it was built originally by Peter Toogood, so that's Anthony Toogood's father. He's a fantastic golfer in his own right, well and truly, and won plenty of things in the world of golf down there in Tasmania and around Australia. And so Peter designed this course. It's got 2 very different tee positions for the front 9 and the back 9 as you play the golf course. So that adds an element of something you might not see from a lot of 9-hole golf courses around the place. But it's the lay of the land, it's the routing of the holes. It's Tom and his team's maintenance and dedication and the way that they carry out their work. It's the turf surfaces, the grass types that are used around the golf course, all cool season stuff. I mean, it's the quality of the way that those turf surfaces are presented. There's a lot of really, really good things about Lanherne. So for a 9-hole golf course, I would be putting Lanherne on your list to play when you go to Hobart. It's something that you really need to do because... I think it's an absolute corker of a golf course, or perler, whichever way you want to look at it. It's fantastic. Tom has recently been rebuilding and growing in a new 3rd tee for the golf course. That's a little, very slight dogleg left, mid-length par 4, great little golf hole, and he's been doing some work there. So I saw the new tee growing in, which looks fantastic. And some of the work that Tom had done in front of the tee itself. This is how switched on Tom is, and I'm not trying to pump up his tyres at all because these are just the facts, people. I didn't know he'd done work to the front area in front of the tee, like the tee carry from tee to the fairway. He'd done some work massaging the shape of the ground and a little bit of work there with the vegetation. And I've got to tell you, if he didn't tell me that he'd done that work himself, I would not have known. That's how good his work was, not just in delivering quality turf surfaces to play golf on, but this is the vegetative stuff. This is the natural areas of the golf course. He just made some minor modifications, and it presents so well. It looked absolutely natural. Tom's going places. I'm just throwing it out there. And I don't need to say that, but I'm happy to say it because when I see someone who's young and does good work, great work, I think that they're worth talking about. And Tom's one of those people. So remember Tom North, people. I'm just saying. But I'm happy to say it how I see it. They've also been doing a little bit of tree work around the golf course, removing some trees around the place. Some of the younger stuff had grown a little bit too thick, some of the wrong types of trees that have been brought in and that sort of stuff. So there's lots of good things happening at Lanherne, and you won't be disappointed when you go and play there. Now, my final visit was an off-the-cuff by chance opportunity to go down and see a project that's in the making that you might have heard a little bit about, you may not have heard anything about. It's called Arm End, A-R-M for arm, like your arm, and end, E-N-D, Arm End. And it is quite an incredible location in a different way to 7 Mile Beach. It's a project that's had challenges getting off the ground. It's a project that's somewhere that when it's finished, and hopefully we see it get going very, very soon, it's somewhere that you will be putting on your bucket list. I'm happy to say it, and I'll say it that casually because that's how good it is. Okay, so a big wow for Arm End. And I've got to say thanks to Pete, the site caretaker down there, who's looking after that space at the moment whilst they're getting through some of the things that they need to get through. Arm End is incredible, and Pete took some time out to show me. So I've got to shout out to Pete down there at Arm End. And find this thing on your socials. Find Arm End, the project, on your social media channels, anywhere you are, Facebook, and I'm not sure if it's on Instagram, but I know it's on Facebook. Look it up on YouTube. There's bits and pieces out there on YouTube. This is mind-boggling. And 7 Mile Beach is mind-boggling, but we've started to hear a little bit more about 7 Mile Beach. Arm End is unique. Unique in a completely different way that 7 Mile Beach is unique. And again, I'm going to talk about the two because there's a good reference point for Arm End in a way. But the drive from Hobart, so Arm End is south of Hobart City itself. It's essentially in the middle of the Derwent River. It's a finger of land that comes around almost in a U shape. You got to head east out of Hobart, then south right down south side. It's about 30 minutes from Hobart by car. Head south through a couple of little country townships as you go along. I say country, not far out of Hobart City. But they had that rural feel about them, lots of horses and things around that part of the world as well. And you get glimpses of the Derwent, glimpses of water. You go through rises and drops and falls and ups and downs and little country villages, South Arm, Opossum Bay, which is there right near where Arm End is. And you almost do a U-shape. So you head south out of Hobart, and then you come around to the bottom, and then you actually turn and swing right up north and go straight up the guts of the Derwent River, which is where this finger of ground is that Arm End is going to be built upon. Now, it's a public piece of ground, and the project is building this public amenity, if you like, of a golf course and this big, wonderful open space that formerly was once a farm. And it's so unique in a different way. Like I said, that the golf course is built, it's elevated up high. This is like a mini version of Dent Island where Hamilton Island's built on. It's not as high through the middle of the golf course, but it's easy to get to, and it's not an island. And it's I think it's about 10 minutes by boat straight from Hobart City onto this particular region. There's a jetty over the side of Opossum Bay, and it's very, very interesting and very, very spectacular in so many ways. And they've got a lot of environmental challenges there that they've had to work through. It's a golf course that OCM are doing the design work for. So we know a lot about OCM as a design, Ogilvy, Cocking and Mead. We know a lot about them, a lot of the work they're doing in the States now, a lot of the work they've done in Australia. They're here, there and everywhere in Australia as well. PK, Mount Lawley, lots of stuff around in and around Victoria. The design of this Arm End golf course is very unique. It's going to utilise the majority of the land at Opossum Bay of this public reserve, but the golf course isn't taking up the majority of the land, if that makes sense. It's routed throughout the whole thing. It is enormous. And some of the viewpoints, there's a really high hill up there, and I'm going to put some stuff on my socials. There's a really high hill where I got to see the elevation of where will be the 18th tee, and it's a junction of the 18th tee and the 16th tee, one of the highest points of the golf course. The 18th looks like something similar from the 18th of Hamilton Island Golf Club, where you're going to tee off this high top, and the fairway is right down below you, and the ball's just going to sail. And it's a north-south running hole. You're gonna be hitting down towards the south. So I can imagine some southerly breezes that are probably going to knock the ball around when this golf course opens. You head up right into holes number 8 and 9, right up the northern end of Arm End, which is towards Hobart City, if you like, on that little peninsula of ground that the golf course is built on. There's views from everywhere, far and wide. It's so exposed to the elements. The wind just really kicked up that afternoon by the time I got there. It was getting cold and sort of breezy, but it's open. The expanse of this golf course is enormous, on a different level to 7 Mile Beach, on a different level to anything I have ever seen in my life. I don't think there's a golf course as big for 18 holes anywhere in this country. And I mean that. I don't think I've seen it. Like I said, the golf course isn't utilizing all the ground, but it's routed throughout it. So it's going to be an interesting way to see how you're going to play the golf course. I think it's so fascinating already to see the routing of the holes and where they're going to go. There's some mind-boggling holes. 15 looks incredible. I mean, it starts off reasonably calm, if that's the right way of saying it. By the time you get to the 4th, 5th, and 6th holes, you are headlong into this amazing landscape. You get through 8 and 9, and you're just, mind is blowing. And then you come back down towards 14, 15, then go up what will be 16 and 17, 18 to finish. I kid you not. The layout and routing of this golf course is sensational. And if we've got OCM as a yardstick to go by, Think of the work they've been doing at Medina. Think of the work that they've done in the past at a lot of golf courses around Australia. And off the top of my head, I always go back to PK because that is one of the best golf courses one of the best golf complexes in the country. The work done at PK, in my opinion. So Arm End is a special part of the world. It's really interesting, and the size of it is just mind-blowing. Big rises and falls, but nothing like the sand dunes of 7 Mile. It's completely different, totally different. There is a lot of sand on the site, and it looked to me like just picking it up and grabbing some of it looked to me and felt very like a sand, belty sand, lots of fines in it. It's very dark for a sand, so I wonder what the overall texture is going to be like for the golf course, whether it's going to feel a bit sand belty in the bunkers potentially that they might build there. Very, very interesting. And that's just my opinion on some of those parts. There's lots of rocky outcrops, some little rocky headlands where the 8th green's going to be. For example, the 9th tee is a beautiful point of the property. There's a couple of junctions where holes come in and around and converge. It's just sensational. And the fact that you're in the middle of the Derwent River, it feels almost like an island. It's that isolated and that exposed, if you like. It's fantastic, and there are views everywhere. I think the wind's going to play a factor here on this golf course, potentially more than 7 Mile. That's my own personal view. Like I said, I don't know Hobart well at all, but I'm here to tell you that Hobart as a golf destination, mark my words, by 2026, I think maybe 2027, you're going to want to be flying to Hobart for golf as much as you're wanting to fly down to Barnbugle for golf, or Melbourne for golf, or the Gold Coast for golf, as we've got golf destinations, Sydney. It's mind-boggling. These two courses alone, these two projects, 7 Mile particularly, it's going to have 5 Mile. Arm End, you add that to being able to potentially play Royal Hobart, Lanherne. They're all local to the airport. This is a fly-in easily and go and play these golf courses, destination golf. It's fantastic. So Arm End's a little bit further away from the city, like I said, but there's the potential that there might be the ability to maybe travel by I don't know if there's a ferry that runs down to Opossum Bay or something that you might be able to do. There's a jetty there, I think. So yeah, Arm End, mark it up. Have a look at it. Look at Opossum Bay on Google Maps, and you'll see at the very, very point of that particular location on Google Maps is where the golf course is going to be, and go and hunt it down on social media. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's a quick wrap-up of this episode of Walking the Fairways and my Hobart trip. That was all done in a day. It was a long day. It was a 19-hour day. Thank you very much, and I was knackered by the end of it. But I would happily do that again to play golf at 7 Mile Beach alone. I would happily make that journey to play golf as a golf trip over a number of days, to play 7 Mile, to play Lanherne, to play Royal Hobart, given the opportunity, not knowing how easy or difficult it is to get onto Royal Hobart. I would take that opportunity knowing that when 7 Mile, 5 Mile, Arm End, there's 3 projects there, one that's about to open soon, and you've got Arm End coming. So Arm End also, I didn't mention that they've actually just had their water pipeline approved, which is one of the challenges for their golf course that they've had in the work. So they've had that approved. It's Class A treated water that's going to be pumped into that region of Hobart, and it's going to be delivered to a lot of the area as well, the farming lands as well as the golf course. So it's a big change to the area as well. But 7 Mile Beach, 5 Mile Beach, that's all part of the one location, the one golf facility. You're going to have 2 courses, but it's going to start with 7 Mile, which is going to blow your mind. Simple as that. You've got Royal Hobart, you've got Lanherne. Probably Lanherne, I'm going to throw it up there, as one of the best 9-hole golf courses I think I've ever seen in Australia. I've seen a few. Dorrigo hits me at number 1, closely followed by Tamborine Mountain, and you've got Lanherne. So that's one. You've got this project at Arm End is mind-boggling. So OCM design, Clayton DeVries Pont design, 7 Mile Beach. We know we've got King Collins coming for 5 Mile Beach, has been announced. So that's King Collins Dormer is now the name of the. They've just introduced a new partner to the business, and I mean, who knows how well these places will continue to evolve. But I know that 7 Mile is going to kick it all off, and it's going to kick it off so hard it's going to knock you in the head and knock your teeth out. It's that good. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you've enjoyed Walking the Fairways this episode. Bit of news, bit of stuff, bit of goss, a day trip down to Hobart, lots of stuff to take in down there, and I know you will too. Stay close to it. I am looking for a partner. If there's any businesses out there, if you know anyone who might be interested in partnering with Walking the Fairways segment of the Golfing Greenkeeper podcast, that's what's up at the moment. I'm looking for a partner to be involved with Walking the Fairways. So if you think you've got something that you want to keep updating the audience with about where your business is at, where you're going, where you're working, that type of stuff, and get your messages out there to the right people and the right ears and the right audience, then get in touch with me at the Golfing Greenkeeper at gmail.com, or you can DM me on my social media and I'll happily chat to you about it. We've got lots of stuff coming out on the Golfing Greenkeeper podcast. Keeper of the Greens comes back very, very soon, next week, in fact, and a fantastic guest coming on board. A lead up towards the end of the year is unbelievable. We've got lots more coming and lots more to start the new year off with. You stay with me on the Golfing Greenkeeper podcast. My name is Steve Smith. I'm your host. I'll always leave you with it. You hit them clean, we'll keep them green, and I'll catch up with you next week.